All right, guys, we are back, and we're going to jump to Andy versus Josh. Goodrum Fundies against Well, I'll Be Damned. Andy gets a good win here, 11-9 over Josh. Close categories this week. Andy wins by a triple and a walk. Josh did not win anything too particularly close, but they tied in wins. For Andy this week on his bench, he hit 14 for 50. That's a 280 batting average, 7 runs, a double, 4 homers, 12 RBIs, 15 strikeouts. None of that would play as Andy's offense, kind of got overmatched by Josh's this week. He did win doubles fairly convincingly, but the rest was pretty much a wash. A couple of moves he made. He picked up John Birdie, who's going to be replacing Miguel Rojas in the Marlins lineup going forward. The only other move he made was to pick up Pedro Strop, who came back from the DL, so that'll be the guy probably filling in for Craig Kimbrell with his injury. For Josh this week, 6 for 24, that's a 250 batting average, 3 runs, an RBI, a steal, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. This is the good Josh who comes to play. You know what I mean? Like, this is 2 days where you point at something and go, okay, I can understand why you played it, especially given his outfield recently. The one player that he keeps benching that's producing is Adam Eaton. But when you look at his roster now, it's JD Martinez, Bryce Harper, Marcell Ozuna, AJ Pollock, and Adam Eaton all in the outfield. It's a really crowded outfield that you have to get playing time for every week, and somebody's going to have to sit. And at the end of the day, that might be Adam Eaton, because you've still got the Eric Hosmer and Freddie Freeman logjam at first base as well. So
yeah, because and somebody's got to play utility, so there's at least 2 men out. But what a scary group of guys he has, and that's why he's been mashing, absolutely mashing these last few weeks.
Yeah, he. We hit on Mike Sherman hitting 24 home runs this week, setting the record. Josh Haber hit 21, which would have tied the record. Or, no, it would have been one short of the record. It was 22 coming into this week. So we get a guy who breaks the record with 24. This guy who would have come one short with 21. We'll hit on another one in a minute. It was just... I don't know if it's just this week, but holy shit, the ball's flying out of the ballpark this week.
Well, just in general this season, do you think that the baseball has changed? Do you think that's, what do you account for why there's so much more power and so many more home runs in the game these last few years, especially last in this year? Is it just the strength of the player, the exit velocity coming off more fireball throwers? Is it ball? What do you think it is?
I think it's a combination. Now, I understand that they did change the dynamic of how the ball is made, where they wind it just a bit tighter inside. Right. So I think that has something to do with it, along with the fact that analytics is bigger than it's ever been. Launch angle is a huge deal. Exit velo, things like that have all come into hitters' minds now, where you know exactly how hard this guy is going to be throwing and how to get your bat at the proper angle to launch this thing. Where line drives was guys like Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs and Don Mattingly, the guys that we sort of grew up watching. Those were line drive hitters. I think if they lived...
A lot of pesky guys.
Exactly. Yeah. John Olerud's another good example. I think if those guys lived in the era now, where 20 homers was the career high for a guy like Gwynn or Boggs, they could be 30 homer guys without question anymore. If they played in this era of baseball with the different ball and the analytics that we have now.
Interesting.
Josh's moves this week.
Or they would be guys that fizzled out and don't get signed because they don't have enough power and they don't adjust.
Oh, but I look at a guy like Jeff McNeil, who is really that type of hitter now.
Yes.
A guy like Jeff McNeil. I'm trying to think. Jose Altuve is another good example, but he does hit a lot of home runs too.
Great example. Why does he have 20 home runs? Exactly.
Yeah, these are the new age guys in that vein, but these are also guys who are going to hit. Look, McNeil's got 15 homers this year already. So
great point. Yeah.
You know, these are guys who. This is the new age type of guy. He's going to hit like the new Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, that era. They're going to hit 320, 330, but they're going to have 15, 20, 25 homers, and that is a stellar player to have. For Josh's moves this week, he picked up Hector Santiago. That was a bad start. He picked up Jonathan Holder. That was a bad start. And then went with a couple of relievers and dropped Greg Holland, who just fell off a cliff lately. I don't know that this guy is he going to get re-signed. Do you think he gets re-signed at some point somewhere?
Oh, I think someone picks him up off waivers and takes a flyer on him to try to go for the playoffs with him. I certainly think someone will give him a chance. No question about it. I mean, Brad Brock, who was having a really disappointing year, the Mets took a flyer on him. He gets a big out with men on base yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
Sometimes all you need is an out in a big spot to get your confidence up, and then you can start picking your spots as well, like throughout the season, and then a manager knows the right time to use a pitcher and get the most out of him. And maybe a team sees that with Holland. So, yeah, I definitely can see it for sure.
Okay. We shall see if Greg Holland finds new employment the rest of this year. Let's go to key players for this week. Andy, who won the week. We're going to highlight Corey Seager. 273 average, 333 on base, 6 runs, 5 doubles, an RBI, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Nico Goodrum, who he has named his team after now, 240 average, 367 on base, 3 runs, 2 doubles, a triple that was the only one of the week and wins in that category, a homer, 5 RBIs, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts, and an error. And finally, J.D. Davis, who... Brody, good job with J.D. Davis. 429 average, 440 on base, 8 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Tell me what you're thinking about J.D. Davis.
Well, it's just, even the 5 strikeouts, a couple of them were looking on questionable calls by umpires. Brody hit it on he just slam dunked this pickup. A guy that's very much like a J.D. Martinez, a guy that Houston didn't believe in him for whatever reason, kind of just cut ties, and he was there for the taking. A young player, why not? You know, you never know when they're at that age how they could develop, and enough major league experience, enough major league at-bats will turn a player around. He's hitting around 400 at Citi Field.
Wow.
I mean, this guy is a machine at home, and you and I both know that the Mets have been really bad in their ballpark since the thing opened in 2009. And this guy, he's young enough that I don't want to say like when you don't know enough. Like you're too young to really get the history, and they don't know the rules of the Mets. And the rules of the Mets, as Josh Haver calls it, is that, typically guys are going to ground into double plays there when you really need them to cash in with a walk or a hit. That when there are guys on base and you need the big pitch, you're going to give up that hit and the other team ties the game. That's the rules of the Mets.
Yep.
This guy doesn't know the rules. He plays by his own rules, and he's a legitimate hitter. Now, as far as Goodrum and what he did for this week, I'm kind of missing what the team name is. Is it just because the word good is in Goodrum's name?
Yeah, it's Keith Hernandez. He always talks about good fundies, right, when he's calling a game. So, Goodrum fundies. Yeah. I got it right away. Yeah. Good job, Andy.
Okay.
I liked it.
Yeah, it could have said Goodrum corned beef. It could have been anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, okay.
Yep. Pitching for Andy this week, Raisel Iglesias comes in again and gets 2 saves, 3 relief appearances, 2 1/3 innings, 3 strikeouts, and 0.86 whip. They were 2 of the 3 saves that he got this week that won him that category, so we highlight that guy. Also, Chris Bassett. I don't know where this guy came from, but 13 innings,
no idea.
A win, 2 homers, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts, 1.38 ERA, a 1.23 whip. The guy's got a 3.56 on the season, and he had good starts. He had a good start against Chicago, against the Cubs in Wrigley. Like, I don't know where this guy came from, and he's just been really, really good for the A's. He's just another guy that the A's have just plucked off of the scrap heap, it seems like. They plug in and somehow get really good production out of him, year in and year out. Whether
amazing scouting, amazing pitching coaches, just great ways to develop Oakland pitching, how to pitch in that big ballpark with all that foul territory. I don't exactly know what the formula is there that Billy Beane and the group possess, but they do know. You're right. They do seem to do this, and it's an American League pitcher who you think that's running into really hot lineups like the Angels and the Rangers and the Astros and a lot of great American League teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize that it's a National League ballpark and he gets to pitch the pitcher in Wrigley, but the Cubs team in Wrigley is no slouch. So I'm really impressed by the Oakland organization. This kid is doing his thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to finish it out with Trevor Bauer, 7 innings, a win, a homer, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and a 0.71 WHIP. I really want to like Trevor Bauer. He just seems like...
Are you missing him?
No, I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not missing him. But the thing is, like, I want to like him more. Like, I want him to be better because he's such a cerebral guy. He's a guy who would fit right into this league as a manager. And for whatever reason, he's not the guy that I drafted this year. He's not the guy that pitched to like the sub-3 ERA last season. This is a great start against Chicago, but like you look at the start against Atlanta, this one before, and the start against Colorado, and the guy is just a head case. You know, this is the guy you saw. I'm sure you saw on Twitter or wherever. He gets pissed off and bombs a ball over center field. Like, he's so maddening, and that's kind of the reason I wanted to get off of him, because A, I was afraid he was going to get traded, but my thought was he was going to get traded to the Yankees, not to Cincinnati, which is arguably not as bad, but close. And B, like, he's just so Jekyll and Hyde that he's difficult to own and difficult to root for, despite the fact that I really want to like this guy more. I want him to do better. Jumping to Josh's team, we'll go with Gio Urshela, who had a great week. 450 average, 500 on base, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Where'd this fucking guy come from? Like,
no, another guy, Cleveland, just cut loose and was more of a defensive specialist, and he's been doing that, but I think it was that he hit 2 home runs in back-to-back days was just, a couple of hot days in this week. It was a big part of it. But you're right. I mean, over the season, this guy has been a godsend for them with all the injuries that they had. When Didi went down, Gleyber's missed time. This guy's only batting .323. He has 17 home runs. He has 61 driven in. He has 57 runs. What else can you ask for from your backup utility player in the infield?
Yeah. Here's the thing. If this team is all healthy, he's not starting. He doesn't have those 17 homers. Like, he is just a bench bat.
Right, and who knows if he emerges then, because sometimes, like J.D. Davis, you need the playing time.
Yeah.
Like, you need to see all different kinds of pitchers. You need to see all different kinds of pitches. You need to experience all different kinds of at-bats, how to be down 0-2 and what to do, when you're up 2-0 and what to do. And this guy, he has 27 doubles, Joe.
Yeah.
That's so impressive. The fact that he could even have possibly 40 doubles this year, that's not outrageous that he could do in 44 games.
No.
So, you got to be impressed with what you see. Just the Yankees organization, like, it just seems next man up. Whoever puts on the pinstripes, they're going to go to town. They're going to go to work. They're going to work their ass off, and they're going to, always contribute. It just seems that way.
Yeah, the kid never hit above 225. Or, I'm sorry, 233 was his highest batting average. But that was in 19 games for Toronto last season. His biggest season...
at-bats.
Yeah, it was so not very much. His biggest season, 267 at-bats, he had 225 for Cleveland in 2015. Nobody saw this coming.
So this is only his 4th year. I mean, obviously this is going to be the most games he's ever played, the most at bats by far. So this might be who he is. Maybe he's a trade piece now for the Yankees. I don't know what they're going to do with Didi. Could go anywhere next year. He's a free agent, so maybe they don't bring him back. Maybe this guy becomes the guy. I don't know what their plan is there.
Yeah, I mean, he's 28 years old. Could I see them moving him in the offseason? Sure. But I don't know who's going to buy into this.
Right.
Or maybe they move Andujar and leave this kid at third base.
I'd say right now, this guy's got more value than Andujar. I realize Andujar was a beast with his doubles, but just because it's a year removed from an injury and you don't know how a guy is going to come back from an injury, that even though Andujar is much more highly touted as a prospect, at this point, the eye sees what the eye sees, and as scouts and general managers feel like this is the guy, then he's the better guy. He's the piece that they're going to want on their team, and not necessarily Andujar.
I agree. And speaking of the eye test, how about Bo Bichette passing the eye test? 321 average, 387 on base, 5 runs, 4 doubles, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts. He's a young kid. You're going to expect that. 2 errors you don't like. Right. But, Toronto is going to be really good, man. They're going to be really good with this kid, Biggio, Guerrero. They're going to be really good.
They got a great core for sure.
Yeah.
They got a great core of hitters. I agree.
Yeah. And finally, Freddie Freeman. I mean, he's Freddie Freeman. 429 average, 515 on base, 8 runs, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. This offense came to hit this week. Josh hit 338 with a 403 on base, 21 homers, 47 RBIs, 46 runs scored. Dominant offensive production from Josh. It's just a shame that, his pitching just didn't show up as well as Andy's did. Look,
right, because they still pitched pretty well.
Yeah.
He still would have trumped quite a few opponents this week with what his pitching did. He just ran into a hotter pitching team, and that was the difference between winning or losing, because his hitting kicked ass.
Yeah, for Josh's pitching, it was Jake Odorizzi, 11 2/3, a win, of homers, 7 walks you don't like, 13 strikeouts, an 0.77 ERA, a 1.54 WHIP. I don't know if that's really indicative of him falling off. The 7 walks over the week, it was pretty much split between the 2 starts. He gave up 3 walks in 6 innings against Atlanta and 4 walks in 5 2/3 against Cleveland. Those are 2 really strong hitting teams, though. And to only give up, looks like 1 run over that period of time, you kind of got to give this guy credit. He goes to Texas in his next start on Thursday or so we'll see what happens there. Julio Teheran, 7 innings, a win, a homer, a walk, 7 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, an 86 WHIP. His start was in Miami. You would kind of expect him to dominate Miami. And finally, Chris Archer, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 3 ERA, a 1.17 WHIP. That start was a no decision in St. Louis. Archer has been better lately, but not great. He's certainly not what the Pirates bought him for. And they gave up an absolute metric ton to get him.
Yeah, he's been miserable. A 3-8 record, a 5.23 ERA. Just, I didn't know what they saw in this guy. I realized that he was certainly an inning eater. He had moments of being an ace for the Tampa Bay Rays. But to give up your horse like Glasnow could be a star one day. And, of course, Austin Meadows, but he was an all-star. So, like you said, a metric ton given up. I certainly didn't get it when it happened. I think Pirates fans were surprisingly pretty excited about the move last year. It was coming at a time when they were in a pennant race, and they were kind of going for it. I didn't get it. But certainly a pitcher that loves competing, loves the game, a smart kid from what I heard. So, that maybe in his future, still a guy that can really do some damage. This just wasn't his year.
Yeah. I was a bit high on him because I thought his draft stock was falling, especially early on in the season. But to go in the 8th round of this draft,
also being in the National League for a full year, you would think that's pretty good.
Yeah, and if you can get him as like your number 4 starter or 3 starter in this league, it probably would have benefited, especially the strikeout numbers. He's always had a high strikeout rate, but you just sort of were going to have to mitigate the ERA and the WHIP as a really difficult thing. I had heard early in the season, like, this was a guy that you would want to pair with somebody like Miles Mikolas, who came into the season with a really low ERA but a really low strikeout rate. This guy or Robbie Ray would be a really nice guy to pair with them so that you sort of mitigate those issues. Obviously, Archer hasn't been what he planned on, of like what was thought he would be, and to another end, Miles Mikolas has been kind of weak too. But with that said, we can jump to the matchup with the Mikolas owner, as Barry Nisman, Plainview Dodgers, took on Frank Bucco's Korean Barbecue. And it's finally time to talk about Frank Bucco having himself a monster week. It's been a while since Frank got himself a solid win. He did get the win over Bobby a few weeks back, but other than that, it's the first 2 weeks of the year against Ari and Mike Sherman. Everything else is just kind of disaster piece for him. But here it is. Here's a great win for him, and his team came to hit. We were talking last week about how, his team really needs to come to hit if he's going to try to spoil the season. It's just unfortunate that this comes against Barry, where, the matchup on the surface kind of means next to nothing because it's 15 versus 16 this late in the season. Close categories this week. Frank wins by a double, a triple, a loss, and a save. Barry wins by a win, and they did not tie in anything. For Frank, on his bench, he went 5 for 13. That's a .385 batting average. 3 runs, a double, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, and 2 strikeouts. None of that matters. Frank hit 23 home runs. He's the second owner this week to break the Bigs' all-time home run record, and yet falls short of Mike Sherman's 24 this week. Just an amazing offensive output across the league this week. Insane. Whether it's Tuesday where Frank's team hit .514 with a .571, 13 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 5 homers, 15 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 7 strikeouts. That's just in one day.
You said those numbers with the runs and the RBIs. That just blew my mind.
Well, that was just Tuesday. Because then he follows it up on Wednesday, 389, 463, 10 more runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 8 strikeouts. He follows that up with Thursday, 423, 516, 9 runs, a double, another triple, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 5 walks, and 7 strikeouts.
Did his runs or RBI total come close to a record? Did they say that it's second or third place?
I can take a look momentarily and see where the record is, and we can sort of postulate.
Take your time.
The RBIs all time is 65. He missed that by 11. It didn't even break this season's record, though. The record for this season came in week 1 when there were 11 games. That was 63, so he got within 9 of that. His run totals, again, extended weeks, both week 1 and week 15, there were 68. He missed that by 10.
Okay.
So,
still, I mean, considering that it's a 7-day week, like, if we extrapolate it, I mean, who knows? Maybe, like, this is the record if there were 3 more days for him to play.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point where Frank was on pace to go after the on-base percentage record for this season, which was .443. Unfortunately, his team sort of cooled off during the weekend, but more than enough that he would win this very easily. Was Ari's last week the .443? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All time, it is 50 Shades of Greinke from 2016, who hit .470.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
And an amazing team name.
Yes, it was. I don't even know who that was. Who was that? Let's find out.
Oh man, what a name.
Is that Chris Levy?
Yeah, that sounds right. That does sound right.
Yeah, I think it is Chris Levy. Chris, if that's you, let us know. Because that's a fantastic team name.
2016 2016, did you say?
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, very possibly. Okay. Interesting.
All right. For Frank's moves this week, he picked up Michael Givens. He picked up Jose Iglesias, who gave him a double and an RBI, went 1 for 4. But then he dropped Jose Iglesias, and it looks like he's going to run this 10 set out. Other than picking up a couple of guys for today, looks like he's just going to run these 10 guys out every day. And I don't blame him. He's finally put together the roster that he likes, and go with it. It obviously worked this week, and see where it takes you. Because
sorry, go ahead, continue, Joe.
Well, he's not that. All I was going to say was he's not that far out of the 12 spot for the consolation bracket, right? He's 8 back, and another good win like this can catapult him right up in there and get him into the consolation bracket. Maybe make some noise there.
Yeah, sure. And I think the key to his week is the decision on Monday to cut ties with his chuffa, like his extra stuff that he just doesn't know what to do with, when to play him, when to bench him. We did talk about Alex Gordon hitting a home run. I believe it was on Chris Levy's team. Mm-hmm. But it didn't really matter. For Frank, he needed to stop making decisions. He needed to be able to say, these are my guys. This is what I'm going to throw out for 6 or 7 days, depending on if they're playing or not. Mm-hmm. But it's just, I think that was the key for him to say, these are not on my team anymore.
Yeah.
These are my guys. I got to play these guys. And that was just the key to his success for me, as far as having his offense stay consistent, so that he didn't have to keep flip-flopping and making guesses, making pickups in free agency. I mean, he had the winning team on his roster already.
Yeah. And, it's sort of a shame that he's tinkered this much and finally figured it out this late in the season, but he figured it out. And I think this is something he can really build on going into next season. And maybe we see this manager mature into a real strong competitor in this league next year.
Yeah, with a fresh start and much more knowledge under his belt, a much different outlook on the draft. Mm-hmm. Because when you're a rookie manager, you don't really know how to draft. Like, you kind of think, like, these are guys that get these stats. You don't necessarily know where the value is on certain things, and when you can wait for certain guys, how to build the team, how to make a specific strategy. I mean, there's just so many factors that I think now going into another season, as you're having a full season under your belt, to understanding how to win, understanding how to deal with a continuous losing streak. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just feel like even though I'm going to change the format of the league, everyone knows that, but even still, I think there is a learning curve, and I think he can take hold of it.
Sure. And the thing is, like, Frank has been saying for the last few weeks, I mean, at least he's been saying it to me, like, he kept saying, I feel like I'm managing better. And this is the culmination of that. Getting that win over Bobby 5 weeks ago, he did lose everything for a month. And it was fairly convincingly, like the loss to Jason was close, but the other 3 were pretty convincing. But he kept saying, I feel like I'm close. I feel like I'm doing better here. And again, this is the culmination. And it doesn't come against a cupcake. This is Uncle Barry. Like, Uncle Barry's a pretty strong manager here. And he's had a down year, but this is a manager that, look, I said it to Frank early in the week. I was like, you better watch your ass, because Uncle Barry could whoop up on you, and then he was just buried in last place. And
no doubt.
He does exactly the opposite, digs himself out of the cellar. And now he's sitting there. He's got Andy this week, who's a half game behind. Another good solid win here, and he's got a chance to make some noise into the consolation bracket. And I certainly look. I hope it happens. Like, that would be a nice little fun story too.
Yeah, and it's part of the reason that sometimes I kind of feel bad that we have to lock the adds and drops on the consolation prize for a couple of reasons. Because guys that make that consolation prize, they still want to play. Like, they still want to get a chance.
Yeah.
And not to mention, there is that opportunity that those guys in the top 6 spots see all of a sudden new players coming in free agency. As a result, guys are going to get added, other guys get dropped, and then all of a sudden, now we all have these new players that we could all pick up. For that reason, it's tempting, but at the same time, you and I both know that guys in the consolation bracket, some of them don't play. Some of them don't try. They mail it in, and as a result, it doesn't really matter to get 7th place because you're getting cookies because no one's really trying that hard against you. And I think for that reason, I think those guys that are in the top 6 are okay with the fact that when I need a starting pitcher on Sunday, the guy in 10th place isn't pulling from me in the playoffs.
Yeah. When I need a starter, I don't want to be fighting. Yeah, I don't want to be fighting guys like down in the teens to get a guy. I completely agree there. Let's go to Uncle Barry's team real quick. 7 for 28. That's a 250 batting average. 3 runs. He left a triple on the bench, a homer, an RBI, a steal, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The triple is the only thing that matters in this matchup because he did lose that by 1. That was Ryan Braun on Wednesday. He was 1 for 2 with a walk, a run, the triple on the bench, and Paul Goldschmidt was 0 for 4 at first base. I know you're not going to bench Paul Goldschmidt, but it's worth pointing out. For his moves, man, Uncle Barry had a rough week pitching, man. 58 in third, 7.41 ERA. That's just awful, and it started with a pickup of Dario Agrazal against I forget who he pitched against.
He pitched against Milwaukee, and he took a tough loss.
Yeah. 5 innings, 5 earned. 2 homers. You look up and down his lineup, and it's a rough group of guys. Adam Simber gave him 2 relief appearances and 40-50 ERA. Miles Mikolas, I spoke of him earlier. This was a guy that you sort of thought was going to pitch to a low 3 ERA with a low strikeout rate that you could pair with a guy like Archer, who would pitch to a 4.5 ERA with a high strikeout rate. They'd mitigate each other. Not this season. This guy, this week, 5 innings, 5 earned, 2 homers, 4 strikeouts. Just an ugly week. At the end of the day, Barry had a rough week streaming guys, including Daniel Norris, and it shows. And he took it on the chin here from Frank, and that's going to put him in last place, and he's going to be fighting to get out of that cellar too. So.
Right, scary team to have to play. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of a trap to play Uncle Barry because he keeps taking these losses, and we all know when he's overdue, when he wins big. But like you mentioned, Agrazal and Buck Farmer on the same day had a 40 ERA, and then all of a sudden, after Monday, Frank's in the driver's seat in pitching. I realize at that point there's only about 10 or so innings pitched, so not much of a sample size that can always go down. But then he just follows it up with, another bad start, and then, of course, Daniel Norris on Sunday didn't help. But, it was sort of out of reach at that point. But you just give Frank credit for just kind of playing cat and mouse with just seeing Uncle Barry having to take brutal start after brutal start, the ERA not going down that much after it was so high, and then that was all she wrote.
Yeah, I think if I can make one critique of Frank, who, look, he had a fantastic week. If there's one critique I can make, when you see this kind of piss poor pitching performance like Barry had this week, and you're up 12 homers, and you're up a bunch of walks, and you still don't have a win, and you're down only a few innings, maybe you stream a guy to try to get those 2 things and put the hammer down even harder. Like, there's nothing to lose there. Even if
maybe, you know what, though? I feel like on Saturday there was still something to lose because Uncle Barry also had pitchers going. And then at the end of the day, Frank did go for it. He went for it with Musgrove, And, he took that risk, So, there was the sense of considering to go for it. There was that opportunity to chase early, but by Sunday, there weren't any pitchers to get. And I feel like Frank basically did what he could. Uncle Barry was determined to win innings pitched. It's amazing that after 58 innings, he only gets 1 win out of it.
Yeah.
But it just goes a testament to how poorly Barry pitched. I thought I pitched badly this week, but no, Barry had it tough this week.
That's pretty bad.
Just ran into a way too hot of a team.
Yeah. Let's go to key players this week. For Frank, okay, remember earlier we were talking about Aristides Aquino, and I said I would have a comp for you? Jorge Soler.
Soler, yeah, you're right. That's a great comp.
Yeah. This week, Soler had a great week. 409 average, 552 on base, 10 runs, a double, 6 homers, 12 RBIs, a steal, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts. Unbelievable week. Ozzie Albies, 500 average, 529 on base, 10 runs, 2 doubles, 2 triples, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Hunter Dozier, 367 average, 406 on base, 9 runs, a double, 2 triples. He needed every single one of those 4 triples to make it happen. 4 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. This does not even touch Carlos Correa's 3 homers and 9 RBIs. This does not even touch Nick Castellanos' 7 runs, 3 homers, and 3 RBIs. This does not touch Chris Bryant's 370 average and 433 on base percentage. This team was the hottest team this week, and I have absolute confidence in saying that, despite the fact that he did not break the home run record with Mike Sherman. He hit 50 to 60 points higher than Mike Sherman did. For his pitching, that's a whole different story. Nick Whitgren gives him a save, so I'll give it to him. 2 relief appearances, an inning and 2/3, a strikeout, and 060 whip. Aaron Civale was a really nice pickup for this guy. 12 innings. He did take a loss, 12 strikeouts and a walk, a 150 ERA, and 067 whip. 2 starts at home against Texas and on the road in Minnesota. The Minnesota one is the one that impresses me. 6 innings, a no decision, 5 strikeouts, a 1.50 ERA. I'll take that. And finally, I'm going to give it to Ryan Harper. Ryan Harper gave him 3 relief appearances, 2 1/3, a strikeout, 3.86 ERA, a 1.29 whip. Thoughts on Frank's team?
Yeah, I guess we saw this coming. You know, it had to give, man. You know, he's just been had such disappointing batting average weeks. We talked about it. It was always like a 250, a 230, a 247. Like we were just saying, you know, at some point you'd think law of averages say that some of these guys are going to explode. I didn't know it was going to be to this extent. I didn't expect it all to come on this week. I'm kind of wondering if it kind of is the sort of thing where it all happens at once, and now all of a sudden it all goes cold again. Mm-hmm. Hopefully not for Frank, but, you know, I just got to give him credit. You know, I think he managed. This was his best managing week. I understand that the team also very much performed, but just, again, I talked about it before, cutting ties with Kiermaier and Gordon and saying, this is my team, I'm going to go from here, watching Uncle Barry pitch badly and play according to it. I think this is easily Frank's best managing week we've seen from this guy.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And here's the thing. Frank now all of a sudden goes from the team that's kind of a weak point on your schedule. If his team's going to hit like this, it becomes a dangerous matchup on your schedule. And after this week with Andy, we'll see whether his team keeps this up. And if they do, and he gets another win out of this, he gets Chris Levy, Mike Haber, James McCloskey. There's a spoil in there.
Certainly an opportunity to ruin somebody. I mean, maybe he takes out Mike Haber from one of those top 2 spots, and now Mike Haber has to play a first-round matchup as a result. Yep. Maybe he knocks James McCloskey or Chris Levy out of the playoffs. It's absolutely possible. And now we're talking about a more seasoned manager with a better team now, has a better feel for the game. This is maybe the worst time to have to face Frank.
It seems like it might be. And, you know, like I said, if it continues, we will see this week against Andy. And if it does, look out, Chris Levy, because your schedule just got a whole lot harder. Uncle Barry's team this week, Leury Garcia gave him a 296 average, a 286 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, a triple, an RBI, 2 steals, and 5 strikeouts. At the end of the day, Uncle Barry needed every steal and as few strikeouts as humanly possible. So I'm looking to find guys who had low strikeout rates and high steals. Yuli Gurriel matches that as well. 471 average, 474 on base, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, a steal, a walk, 1 strikeout. And finally, Ryan Braun. Ryan Braun, 385 average, 467 on base, 2 runs, a double, an RBI, a walk, 3 strikeouts. Just a solid week from that guy, who doesn't get into the lineup every day from what I can tell from Uncle Barry's team, but he's a former MVP winner, and he's not what he used to be, but he's still a very solid, third outfielder, bench utility guy. Pitching wise, okay, I'll highlight the guy who got the win for Uncle Barry. That is Anibal Sanchez. 11 innings, a win, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 3.27 ERA, and a 1.18 WHIP. That's literally the bright spot on this team. Felipe Vasquez gave him a clean inning and 3 strikeouts. And Chase Anderson, 5 2/3, a 3.18 ERA, a 1.24 WHIP, a homer, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. The rest is pretty bad. So
yeah,
we'll just
and that's why it's a 7.4 ERA, a 1.75 WHIP for Uncle Barry. That's not beating anyone this
No.
week. So,
No.
But even still, it's just scary to think about what Uncle Barry can do to his next opponent. So when we look at this matchup, we understand it's number 15, number 16. I think these are probably the last teams you want to face right now because it's a really hot team and a really cold team.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you expect that total cold team to just get hot at any point, and you expect the hot team to stay hot at some point. So we're going to see what happens, but it's going to be a lot of fun going forward.
Well, Uncle Barry has Jimmy Dunlap this week, and we will see if Barry can turn it around.
This is it.
This is a good spot for Barry to turn it around and play spoiler for a team falling down very quickly. And he renamed his team the Titanic. He's lost his last 3. So if Uncle Barry can make it 4 in a row, all of a sudden Jimmy's probably on the outside looking in.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that that's a possibility, especially because we're talking about a rookie manager with Jimmy, and you never know how a guy is going to perform now that they think that they might be sliding. His managing style might totally change.
Yeah.
I mean, what's gotten him so much success for the first half of the year, all of a sudden, it's not working for him. So I'm kind of curious to see how he plays. If he plays as a desperate team, starting to drop players that he normally wouldn't, because he doesn't have as much time anymore. He needs to start collecting W's any way he can.
Absolutely. Guys, that will do it for the matchups this week. Let's get to our best and worst. Benji, who's your best starter this week?
Well, I'm going to go with the guy that had to face me on Sunday, and unfortunately, he gets a big win for him tying the category against me. That's Ryan Yarbrough. That was 1 out from a complete game. That would have stunk, but he didn't get it. 8 2/3, he got the win. 8 strikeouts. He did not give up a walk. No earned. I mean, and just a .35 WHIP. He probably gave up 1 or 2 hits, something like that.
Yeah. I think you were a big fan of Kevin Cash on Sunday night. I'm going to highlight your starter who basically matched that, Chris Sale, who pitched against the Angels, 8 innings, a win, 13 strikeouts, and an 0.25 WHIP. That came on Thursday, so I'm sure at that point you're sitting in the driver's seat going, "This is great. I have this awesome start that I've had, and Jason is kind of up against it and needs to have a good start." And then you see Ryan Yarbrough go off like that. It had to be heartbreaking.
It was. At the same time, though, Joe, I'm looking back on it and saying I needed all of those strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
I needed the innings, so it still was a valuable start from Sale.
Absolutely. All right, who is your offensive player of the week?
Well, it was
in a week where everybody hit. I have 6 names on this list, so.
Interesting. Well, mine was a 2-man race on the same team, both on Frank's team. It was either going to be Albies or Soler, but I'll go with Soler. He had 10 runs. He had a double. He had 6 home runs. He had 12 RBIs, a stolen base, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts. He had a .409 average and a .552 on base. And that's beating out Albies, who had a 500 average for the week and a 529. And oh yeah, hit 2 triples, which tied Uncle Barry in triples. Mm-hmm. Oh no, sorry, he won by one triple.
Yeah.
Did Frank? So he needed those 2 triples from Albies to win the category. So tough call on which one to pick, but a good problem to have for Frank. So there you go.
Yeah, Soler made my list of 6. Albies did not, and that's probably a slight against him considering the 2 triples and the 500 average. Running them down real quick: Mike Habers, Yordan Alvarez, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 455 average, 500 on base percentage. Chris Levy's Aristides Aquino, 467, 529 average, and on base percentage, 5 runs, 5 homers, 9 RBIs. Mike Sherman had 2. Ronald Acuna, 419, 471, 12 runs, 6 homers, 10 RBIs, 3 steals, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts. And Mike Tauchman, 417, 517 on base, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, 2 steals, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. And finally, Josh has Gio Urshela, 450, 500 on base, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. I am just going to say now, I am fortunate and thankful I did not face any of these offenses that went the fuck off this week. Whether it was Frank, whether it was Sherman, whether it was Josh Haber. Those 3 offenses went off.
Mike Haber also, pretty solid.
Yeah. I'm just glad I wasn't facing any of them. Who's your worst start of the week there, Benji?
I'm going to go with John Lester. 4 innings pitched. That's not, he could have gone only 2 innings, but still, the loss, the 20.25 ERA, the 3.25 whip. He gave up 2 dingers. He had 3 walks. He had 6 strikeouts. Just not what you want to see. Definitely a guy I think I traded at the right time.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm going to go with my own stream of Jorge Lopez at Detroit on Thursday. I had the right team and the right opponents. I just waited. I just jumped it too early because I did do Mike Montgomery. But this was a bad one. An inning and a third, a no decision, a homer, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. That's a 27 ERA and a 375 whip. We could also highlight Dallas Keuchel on Thursday for Ari. 3 2/3 in Miami. A loss, 3 homers, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 19.64 ERA, and a 3 whip. Who is your worst batter of the week?
So, I got Daniel Murphy as my worst hitter of the week because he had 20 at-bats, he had 1 run, he had an RBI, he had a walk, he had 7 strikeouts, he batted 100, so he had 2 hits. And a 143 on base percentage. This is a big deal because, James, who has such an explosive offense, he really had a bunch of guys that just didn't come to play. And the league needed him to spoil a little bit, you know? And he did anything but that. He took a 15-2 loss in the chin.
Yeah.
Just a horrendous showing.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was in position to spoil it early in the week. This was a fairly close matchup early on, and it ends up being this just drubbing that he takes. I'm going to highlight a guy who won this week, and won in spite of his second-round pick. I said this earlier in the season, that Manny Machado is incredibly overrated, and here it is again. 0-43 for the week, 120 on base, 2 runs, a double, an RBI, a steal, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. 0-43 for a week when you're in a playoff race, when you are trying to get every stat, when you are pushing against all these teams ahead of you. Mike Sherman needed more out of him. A whole lot more. With that, it is that time of week once again, Benji. Who is your manager of the week?
An easy decision to make, man, because a lot of guys played really hard this week. I talked about it in the beginning of the show. A lot of energy, a lot of hard work, a lot of pickups, different kinds of plays to try to play to your opponent's matchup. Could have been Mike Haber with his lopsided win. I just feel like his opponent he kind of outplayed himself as well with, not playing that much. Could have went with Nick Holman, who spoiled a guy that was trying to make a miraculous run. There were quite a few guys I could look to, but to be honest with you, man, when all is said and done, even Mike Haber, who I like to be a top spot, perhaps to win the whole damn thing, I'm going to go with Frank, man. I think Frank played to the matchup. I thought the decision to cut ties in the beginning with Kiermaier and Alex Gordon was huge. I just really thought that as far as what he had to do to play to his opponent, he wasn't playing just anyone. He was playing one of the best managers we have, one of the most, if not the most experienced manager that we have in this league, and he outplayed him, and he outmanaged him, and he beat him by 13. So, maybe a sexy pick from me, but I got to give it to the man. He did a great job. He even took risks that burned him, but they were intelligent risks. They were good choices to try to go for stats on Saturday and such. So, without question, definitely not easy, but it just, at the end of the day, this guy seemed like he did the most work. He showed restraint, too. Like, there's usually Frank making a ton of moves early in the week, and it kind of burns him later. He didn't even do that. He even had moves to spare so he could pick up guys on Sunday from Monday. Yep. So, I really give the guy a lot of credit for the maturity, as you mentioned. That seemed to be what did it for me in choosing him to be my guy for the week.
Yeah, you know what? I can't disagree with you there. He was definitely in the running for my manager of the week. For me, it's going to be a team in the playoff hunt. It's going to be the team at the top of the standings. It's going to be Mike Haber. Haber, he turned around what looked like a rough matchup against James Santangelo on Friday into just an absolute beating in 2 days. His team hits, and Saturday's pitching performance just shut the door on James Santangelo. Yes, James outmanaged himself by not playing a lot of guys on Friday, but even after Friday, with those mistakes that he made with the Carpenter and the Raimel Tapia mistakes, he was still ahead 10-9. And, it was the Saturday and Sunday play of Mike Haber that just shows why he's the top dog right now, why he's the guy who's going to be leading us into the playoffs. I give him a ton of credit, and yeah, Mike Haber, my manager this week.
Yeah, I get it, because if he's down 10-9, all of a sudden he makes up 6 stats in 2 days and just trumps his opponent just like that in 2 days when you're thinking it's going to be a much closer matchup. I can definitely understand that as well.
Yeah. With that, guys, it will be week number 19 this week. We've only got 4 left, guys. It's coming down to the nitty-gritty. We've got, 9 teams separated by 21.5 games. But what really matters is we've got 6 teams separated by 9.5 games. It's going to be an incredible race. Benji, as always, thank you so much for being with me. Good luck this week against your brother. I know that that's a key matchup in the Nisman house.
Oh, yeah, no question about it, and thank you for the luck. Best of luck to you as well. Should be really, really interesting going into the final 4 weeks. I know there's a lot of desperate teams, but I hope that they're smart enough to show some restraint, to not just go crazy and dismantle their whole team for a win, because you never know what you might need in the final 3, 2, or 1 week. So I just wish the best of luck to all the managers out there that obviously have very, very important battles in the next 7 days, and I'll talk to you Monday, buddy.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you next Monday. And guys, as always, if you want in on the show, let me know. Labor Day, we already have a guest lined up, and you're more than welcome to come on and join us. As always, it's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next week.